For the past 9 months, Martin Amis has been living in his mother-in-law's house, a grand many-storied residence in downtown Manhattan to which he and his wife, the novelist Isabel Fonseca, decamped after a fire wrecked their home. This was the place in Brooklyn where they had been living since 2011, and almost a year after the fire, the result of a defective chimney in which, Amis says, broke out on New Year's Eve like the last kick in the ass of 2016, he still looks like a man who has suffered a shock. In the gloomy drawing room, he moves stiffly around nursing a back injury, ruefully enumerating the ways in which old houses can ruin one's life. The property was salvageable, but the couple's peace of mind was not, and they will soon be moving to a new home, an apartment in a skyscraper in downtown Brooklyn. It's on the 20th floor, so you are up there in the clouds, he says. It's going to be very heady, certainly to begin with. It seems strangely fitting that, 2 years shy of his 70th birthday, Amis should be plunged into a modern setting, although the very idea of Amis at 70 is somehow absurd. For many, he is frozen in time as he appeared in the late 1980s and early 1990s, young, rangy, belligerent, chucking out neologisms with a verve readers found either delightful or altogether too much. Amis as elder statesman doesn't compute, not for any lack of gravitas on his part. He is, as always, erudite, thoughtful, disinclined to hold back for the sake of an easier life, but rather for some quality in his writing, a youthful elasticity. He is still very much Amis, slyly commenting on the absurdities of his adopted American home, but this afternoon his energy seems tempered by a frailty of form. An occasional note of hesitation creeps in. It serves as a reminder that, for even the boldest among us, age is a process of becoming steadily less sure. The Rub of Time, a collection of essays and reportage, goes back to pieces written by Amis for Tina Brown while at Talk magazine, notably, a long piece about the porn industry in 2001 to an interview with John Travolta for The New Yorker in 1995, to recent thoughts for Harper's about Trump. Above all, perhaps, he writes of Trump, his antennae are very sensitive to weakness. Trump can sense when an entity is no longer strong enough or lithe enough to evade predation. The question is, can he do it with American democracy? The most compelling among these are his pieces about writers, which suffer from none of the anxiety that can mar his engagements with pop culture. There is a crushingly good piece on Nabokov's decline, but also wonderful essays on the genius of Larkin and J.G. Ballard, as well as loving tributes to Iris Murdoch, Saul Bellow, Christopher Hitchens and Amis's father, Kingsley. We are all of us held together by words. Amis writes in reference to his father's last days, and when words go, nothing much remains. Perhaps inadvertently, the book has an elegiac tone. In a piece about tennis, Amis Riley notes his own encroaching decrepitude. The ball comes over the net like a strange surprise. You just stand there and watch until, with a senescent spasm, you bustle off to meet it. The use of bustle, here, a quintessential Amis touch. Young Martin Amis, on right, with his parents and siblings in 1956. Photograph, Daniel Farson, Getty Images. If America is, for Amis, an easier place in which to grow old, fewer critics, for his start, he retains an expectation that he and his wife will move home one day. I miss the English, he says. I miss Londoners. I miss the wit. Americans, they're very, well, de Tocqueville saw this coming in about 1850, he said. It's a marvelous thing, American democracy, but don't they know how it's going to end up? It's going to be so mushy that no one will dare say anything for fear of offending someone else. That's why Americans aren't as witty as Brits, because humor is about giving a little bit of offense. It's an assertion of intellectual superiority. Americans are just as friendly and tolerant as Londoners, but they flinch from mocking someone's background or education. This is not an inhibition from which Amis suffers. His most recent spat in the British press was over a piece he wrote for the Sunday Times about Jeremy Corbyn in 2015, in which he mocked Corbyn's lack of education, among other things, and which was considered by some to be unforgivably snobbish, a case of picking an unfair fight with the poor man who wants to be prime minister. 2E grades at A-level. Amis says now, that's it? He certainly has no autodidact streak. I mean, is he a reader? Hitler's education ended when he was 17. Stalin was an incredible reader. Balzac, Dickens. I'm going back to all that now, because it's the anniversary of the Russian Revolution. Lenin has been very much downgraded and Stalin has been, not rehabilitated for his crimes, but for what he was before the revolution. Not just published, but an anthologized poet. A lifelong autodidact, and capable of political poetry in a way Lenin wasn't. But it does matter if leaders have some sort of backing. The internet, for all its benefits, has had a stupefying effect. I was amazed when Salman did Twitter. Why take it on? Corbyn's success in the election has done nothing to raise Amis's opinion of him. The Labour leader is, he says, more cautious now, but still grimly ideological, and an admirer of tyrants. Chavez, Putin, the beneficiary of a deranged electorate that, for different reasons, gave rise to Brexit and Trump. It's a sort of restless desire for change, Amos says. And also, this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the internet, for all its incredible benefits, has had a stupefying effect, I think. It was always a Pandora's box. Its part in terrorism is malign, and it has made it difficult for people to concentrate. There's a good line in one of the essays